Hey, this is the Moose. I'm here with Josh Culp from Future Fantasy. You guys might know him from the Fantasy Golf Happy Hour or from Roto World or Roto Grinders. Josh, how you doing today?
Hey Moose, good to be here talking golf with you.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about your process and how you go about setting up your lineups each week.
Okay, so I guess to start the week, I usually look at past quotes from golfers, and I look at how the course played in the past. So I keep track of like how you do it. The Fantasy Golf National does it really nicely now, where you can just look at the past course conditions. But I guess that's what I try to do, and then try to determine how the course is going to play from there. So like right now, for the Conway Farms, I have some notes. I like to write things down on notepad. So notes I have on this upcoming tournament, the BMW, for example, I have 6 driving holes where the driving distance is less than 280 yards. So there's lots of holes where golfers can take less than driver. And then I have, the par 5, 8th, and 14th are holes that are often people go for it in 2. So just kind of try to take notes on the course and then let everything unfold from there.
Okay, awesome. So when you get in here, where do you normally start? Kind of what are the things that you like? Where do you like to start? What are the things that kind of pop out to you that you really like on the site?
So a big thing I like that you just added is this strokes gained ball striking in the short game. Those are nice. Before, I'm a big fan of course history. So something I'd do before, I'd kind of click on the course and before I'd see who has good off the tee and approach stats at the course. So now you've made it a lot easier with the ball striking. So you just go right there and see. And then something I like to do from there is kind of dive into a player and
The shitload of tabs you have open there.
Oops. Yeah. I don't like to close the tabs, so like I'll use the filter that you've got there, and filter for BMW, and I like to compare. This is Jason Day. These are his 2 results at Conway Farms. Then I compare it to this baseline, his last 99. So it's like in literally every category, he's better than his baseline at Conway Farms. So that's something that definitely catches my eye. And then,
Will you explain that to me real quick? When you're saying the baseline and that he's better than his baseline?
So this last 99 tournaments that you have here since 2012, his approach is 1.6 strokes there, and then at Conway Farms, he's put up 1.9 and 4.7. So that's over that. And then approach 1.4 and 6.4, better than his baseline there as well. And his around the green, better than 1.3, and his putting better than 2.2. So
okay, so when you're saying baseline, you're basically talking about their long-term form, like as many rounds as we have. That's what you're calling their baseline. Okay.
Yeah, so that's what I try to do when I dive into course history, because sometimes you can get, someone who's just really good at a course for a year or 2, and then it just happens to be they caught fire with the putter or something, or they have 1 or 2 hole outs. But when you get a long sample size of 3 or 4 years, unlike this one, but it really makes a difference. I think I like to look at I guess more of the recent stuff, but at the same time I like to dive into someone's like Justin Thomas. I'll dive into them. And again, I love to use the baseline that you have here, the long term, and then I compare it to the recent ones. His approach over his last 5 is 3 strokes, it's double his long term baseline, and his around the green is more than triple. So like stuff like that, it makes me think that Justin Thomas is ready to hit a wall soon. But it's I could have said that last week too. So.
Right. Yeah. It's always the game. At what time is it that they figured something out in their game, and at what point is it that they're ready to just crash and burn?
So those are a couple ways I like to use it, but I also love the correlated courses. So I use that quite a bit. Control clicking on these courses.
Do you have any correlated courses for this?
Let me see. I did go through that. The ones I'm looking at are Quail Hollow, East Lake, Muirfield Village, Firestone, and the Old White TPC. I also have Whistling Straits as a smaller. I'll include that too. Small sample. The Old White. What else did I say? Quail Hollow. I'll use the regular one, not the PGA. I'll include both. Wouldn't change that much, yeah. Firestone and East Lake. I mean, I'm more of a fan of long term, so I keep it at higher numbers, but I definitely see the appeal of getting, into the. Oh, let's see who. Rory, Rose, Kuchar, Fowler, Streb. If we're going long term, but going more recent form, then you
When
see.
I like kind of switching back and forth between recent form and long form, but as soon as I start doing a lot of those filters, that's when I'll start to adjust my rounds significantly, because if you've got some guys that have 30 rounds under those conditions and some guys that only have 12, I try to get it so that most everybody's got the same sample size.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Here we see, most guys are going to have 12 rounds at these correlated courses outside of, Grayson Murray's, Xander, Rahm. So any of the first or second year guys.
And even so, they're only 4 rounds off, so there's not going to be a huge drastic change between somebody who has 8 rounds and somebody who has 12.
Yeah, so I definitely like to use this correlated course feature that on Fantasy National.
Now, we've so far only been looking at the strokes gained stats. Are those pretty much primarily what you look at, or do you ever dive into some of the more specific stats?
I mean, I lean pretty heavily on this ball striking off the tee approach, but I definitely also look at birdies gained. I don't usually do that for correlated courses. Maybe I should. I guess I haven't really tracked it, but I look at the birdies gained and also like the GIRs gained, just because it's so simple, such a simple stat. I guess.
Well, yeah, while we're at GIR's gained, I guess I should maybe take a second to explain that to people who don't know, because most of the time when you look at PGA Tour, they just say who's hit the most greens in regulation, and they say how many holes did they play, how many times did they hit the green, and they get a percentage. Well, what we do is we take every round that they play, we say what was the average number of greens hit by the field, and then did this person hit more or less than the average for that field? And what that does is it normalizes data so that a guy who's playing on huge greens doesn't all of a sudden get a bump in the stats, where a guy who's playing at places like Colonial or Harbor Town with small greens and they're harder to hit gets hit. Likewise, if there's a lot of wind one day, it might be harder to hit the greens, so the field average would be lower. And if a guy hits more, then he's gaining more. It doesn't matter if he hits 12 or if he hits 6, as long as he's above the average.
Exactly. That's such a good stat to have. I mean, if you're not using these adjusted stats, then you're really missing a big picture.
Do you ever get into any of the filters on the left where you're kind of doing that specialist thing, like hitting the fairway, or greens that are hard to hit, greens that are easy to hit?
Yeah, definitely. I think the biggest one I use is these greens. That's kind of how I get into the specialist stuff to begin with, kind of determining, who puts better on Bermuda versus Bent versus POA, and it just kind of snowballed from there. But I definitely love having these filters over here. I think I like to keep it simple usually and look at, just one or two at a time. Personally, I don't like to filter it so far down that.
So you're going to walk us through and just kind of like, we're going to look at only the 10,000 plus guys, and you're just going to kind of walk us through your logic on who you like this week.
All right, sure. Well, let's see who we have here above 10,000 first. We have Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Ricky Fowler, John Rahm, and Justin Thomas. So right off the bat,
without even looking at stats, what's your kind of gut on these guys?
My gut kind of tells me Ricky Fowler. I mean, and any course suits his eye right now. He's just kind of locked in this whole year. I think I hate to say he's due, but he's kind of due for another win. As you can see with his stats here, he's just, I mean, his strokes gains are like out of this world in every category. That's what I love about Ricky, because when one part of his game is off, he kind of picks it up with another part. So as we can see here with all of these, he's just kind of dialed in every facet of the game.
I'm looking at his results too, right below that, and those are all pretty impressive. He's, like you said, he seems to be due for a breakout because
he won the Honda, but since then he's like this 15.7. I'm looking at the strokes gain total: 15.7, 13.2, 14.4, 13.3. Those are all deserving of being there, right? Like with a chance to win. So
when we're talking about these guys at the top range, how many lineups do you typically put together a week? And then when you're putting together lineups, how many of these top guys, so if there's 5 guys at the top right now, how many of them are you actually going to play?
I'll start with how many lineups. I usually do 50 to 75 lineups. I used to max enter back when it was, a different pay structure, but when it's $4 and $8, I like to put in 50 to 75. I usually try to fade one golfer, like high-end golfer, but other than that, like I don't really, limit myself to, 1 or 2 or anything like that. Yeah, I guess it's dependent on week to week and pricing. Like this week where it's a no cut with 70 golfers in the field, I mean, I think it'll depend on how the ownership shakes out. If one of these expensive guys are not getting, owned, then they probably deserve to go in some GPP lineups.
Welcome to Fantasy National Golf Club, the only resource you'll need for your golf research needs. Fantasy National Golf Club has all the information to take your golf game to the next level. Hate how you can only find season-long PGA stats? Well, we did too. At Fantasy National Golf Club, we let you sort over a large range of dates so you can locate the players with the best form over specific periods. And it's not just strokes gained numbers. Find everything from par 4 performance on specific ranges to how golfers perform in certain wind conditions and everything in between. But it's not stats and more stats. Fantasy National Golf Club has an easy-to-use daily fantasy lineup generator, years worth of data from each course, a user-friendly stat model which you can customize to your key stats and set your own weighting, plus the most interactive ownership model you've ever seen. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Fantasy National Golf Club. It's time to become a member.